And you'd say, who's Grace Fremantle?
Exactly.
And they'd say, she's the one in 11F.
She's the one in 11F.
She had friends.
Yeah, she had friends.
They weren't popular.
Unpopular.
No, not unpopular.
Yeah, not unpopular.
Grace was kind of just average.
Yeah, average.
Grace Fremantle was totally average.
Totally average.
Until that day in PE.
Oh yeah, that's in PE.
I am Grace Fremantle. I was totally average.
My
It's December, 6 months before. It's cold, evening, 7 o'clock. I'm at home. I'm in my bedroom, staring at my GCSE revision timetable. My revision timetable was colour-coded and covered in fluorescent post-its that Dad nicked from work.
Hello!
My parents are big on revision and working hard on being the best possible version of myself. Mum shouts up the stairs.
Grace, are you revising?
I like the way pink and yellow post-its look next to each other.
Grace, did you hear me?
They remind me of sweets,
Grace,
like rhubarb and custards.
I hope you're revising, Grace.
Like the rhubarb and custards I had when I went to the seaside when I was 7.
It's maths and physics tonight, isn't it?
When we walked along the beach and found shells, and Dad ran into the sea, and I had a 99 ice cream, and Mum ruffled my hair and snuck a bite of my plate, but I didn't mind because the sun was shining and the sea was wavy.
Grace, I'm not going to nag you. Remember, it's your future.
And that's my first feeling.
Your future.
In my belly I feel
Your future.
a presence, a gnawing, a squirming. It's small, like a cherry pit, or a baby shrimp. It is really small, whatever it is, but it's here. It's definitely here.
Grace Fremantle, that day in PE? Yes, madness. 100% madness.
January. There's a special school assembly with a special guest. The special guest was a famous barrister who went to the private school across town, which has its own theatre and a cricket pitch and ancient oak trees. Our school doesn't have its own theatre or a cricket pitch or ancient oak trees. Our school has one between 2 books and teachers who go off sick. The barrister is very passionate.
I want you to look around you. I want you to look to your left. Now look to your right. Welcome to your competition.
My stomach contracts.
You will sit your GCSEs at the same time. You will sit your A-levels at the same time. You will apply for university together.
My insides jogger.
And what I want to know is, what are you doing to stand out from everyone here?
It expands inside me.
You are at a crucial point in your lives.
It grows.
Every choice you make now will impact on your future.
It grows to the size of a chestnut.
What is your plan?
It feels like the worst is yet to come,
What is your 5-year plan?
or the best is yet to come.
You are in charge of your destiny.
It grows to the size of a mouse.
With hard work and determination, you can make your dreams come true.
It grows to the size of a hamster.
Harness your power.
By the end of the assembly, it's the size of a newborn puppy.
You can make it happen.
A small one.
The hard work starts now.
A Jack Russell, maybe.
Competition started yesterday.
Or a West Highland Terrier.
Welcome to the real world.
Yes. Like a West Highland Terrier puppy scrambling around inside.
I met Grace on my first day of primary. We were best friends. We are best friends. Were. Are. I don't know, it's hard to tell since, you know. Anyway, I love primary. We all love primary. Every Thursday our teacher, Mrs. Drake, would take us all out onto the school field, tell us to look up at the sky. She told us about all the clouds. She asked us to close our eyes and listen to the music of the wind in the trees. She asked us to lie on our stomachs and feel the heat of the earth on our skin, and look at the grass and count all the different things we could see. She said, "Isn't the world a wonderful place?" One Thursday, I counted 17 things. Grace counted 17 things too. We both saw an iridescent bug with bright green wings. It was beautiful. I miss being 7. I miss counting interesting things in the grass.
When it's asleep, it throbs in time with my heartbeat. It's like we're one thing. I know we're not one thing. It plays around. Sometimes I think it has feathers. Sometimes I think it has fur. Sometimes spikes like a porcupine. It wrestles and tumbles inside my body. I can feel its spine up against my kidneys.
Pulse.
It was February when I first noticed something wrong with Grace. Oh, ages before that day in PE. My mum just got engaged to John, aka the moron. She was trying to get me on side, so she gave me 10 quid to spend as a dinner, as a treat. So I invited Grace to Pizza Town, so we are waiting for our pizzas. There was this great big TV by the corner. Yeah, some bare boring news was on. Grace was watching it.
There are children and women and men in the fatal boat of the sea. The waves are enormous. The boat is sinking.
It scuttled down from my belly, across my pelvis and into my thigh.
The sun was off. Ed Sheeran was blaring out a million decibels, making the news like the most boringest music video ever.
I'm thinking out loud. We found love right where we are.
And Grace just kept watching.
A woman slips from the boat. She has a baby in her arms. She tried to keep the baby above her head. She's dragged into the water.
Its body quivers inside my thigh.
When I met the moron, I didn't like one bit. He was cold to me, and my mum as well, when he didn't do what she wanted.
A man reaches for the screaming baby and passes it to a teenage girl.
It pushes its tiny skull up against my kneecap.
I tried to say something about it to Mum, but she said, "Don't you want me to be happy?" There's nothing you can say to that. So she gave me 10 quid. And there we were, sitting in Pizza Town, me, worrying about my mum, and the moron, and Grace, looking at the TV like she'd never seen a TV before.
The woman disappears under a crash of waves.
I said, "Grace, what are you going to do next year?"
It taps at my kneecap. Tap,
I said, "You're going to stay on at school?"
tap. I put my hand above my knee. I massage the skin. I try to soothe it.
I said, "Grace, Grace."
The boat upturns. The children, women, and men scream and shout. They cling to the inflatable as it begins to sink.
My leg violently jerks and hits the underneath of the table.
And you'll never believe what happened next. She just got up and left. She left me in Pizza Town without even a goodbye. I'm like, are you joking? Are you actually joking? I only invited her because everyone else was busy.
I crouch behind the bins out the back. I take a deep breath. I look at my leg, just above my knee, straining against my skin. I can see the outline of its face. There's a beak. It has a beak. It has a beak and it's straining against my skin.
My mum went ahead and married that moron.
Grace was in my math class. I liked her. She was nice. I wish I'd said to her, you can talk to me if you want. No pressure. I'm here if you need to talk. I wish I'd done that.
I think it was around March time. We were in geography.
It was proper boring. Grace was sat on our table, seating plan. Between that lesson, Miss Jarvis was going on about carbon emissions. It's asleep, curled around my heart.
It's important to understand that the Earth's climate is changing at an unprecedented speed.
It wakes up.
I still don't know what a carbon emission is.
We can see this in higher temperatures all over the world, along with rising sea levels.
It wants something.
Geography isn't my thing. Art's my thing.
Let's look at art. Thanks, Han.
We can see this in more frequent and severe floods, droughts, and storms.
I don't know what it wants.
I got my phone out to show the others this bag I liked. I passed my phone to Grace under the table.
Anna Beauty, 1.1 million followers. This beautiful clutch makes a perfect travel bag, and it's only $42.99.
We can see this in species extinction.
Grace opened the phone really close.
Hashtag beauty, hashtag clutch, hashtag retrovibes, hashtag bring on summer.
The bequita is the world's rarest marine mammal.
Grace was gripping the phone like,
Yeah, like Pixie dream 22. Anna Beauty, I want your bag. I want your life.
The Pepita will be extinct in the next 5 years.
Its body tenses.
And then Miss Jarvis puts up a picture on the secret station going like that.
This small portfolio was only discovered in 1958, and here we are 60 years later, about to lose them forever.
It scuttles along the length of my torso.
And Bruce suddenly looked up, and I wanted my phone back.
Climate change is a catastrophe waiting for all of us.
Yeah, because here, if the teachers see your phone, they take it.
And the consequences for humans can already be seen.
It starts climbing up my ribcage.
Yeah, they lock your phone in a safe.
Around the world, we see wars and starvation.
It pulls itself inside my ribcage. I think it has teeth.
And your mum, or your dad, or your older sister, or whoever has to come and collect it.
Around the world, we see desertification and forced migration.
My dad had to come and get my phone once. He was well pissed off.
And this is only going to get worse.
There's a noise.
I really wanted to get my phone off her before Miss Jarvis saw it.
There's a noise inside of me.
We have 12 years to do something, for catastrophe is inevitable.
So I reached over and I grabbed it out of Grace's hands.
I can hear it.
Just 12 years.
Yeah, that's when she went really big. Well, we don't know, do we?
I can hear it from inside me.
Then Grace leaned right over the desk and held her stomach like,
Yeah. 12 years for global
And then
leaders
she
to
stopped
take
it.
action.
yeah!
What can we do about it?
It was very out of
I'm
character.
sticking out.
We found love right where we are.
Oh my god!
We found love right where we are.
The it hisses and spits and growls. When I speak, the it cracks through all my words. I stop speaking.
Me and Grace just got on with each other. Right from the start, from the very first day we met in year 1. She was really kind. Yeah. She always made me feel like it's okay to be me.
I keep my mouth shut.
Sometimes I feel horrible being me. I hate my body.
I keep my mouth shut.
After school, we'd always go to Grace's house and make macaroni and cheese, which was our thing.
I keep my
We
mouth
loved-
shut.
Loved macaroni cheese.
I keep my mouth shut.
But then she just kind of disappeared. Not literally, she
I
was
keep
still
my mouth
around,
shut.
but she wasn't, if you know what I mean.
I keep my
She
mouth
stopped
shut.
communicating for months.
I keep my mouth
She
shut.
started staying after school in the library and getting the bus back home when everyone was long
I
gone.
keep my mouth shut.
She stopped asking me to come over to her house. She stopped texting, Snapchatting, WhatsApping, Instaing, all of it, everything.
I keep my
finished.
mouth shut.
I miss her.
I keep my
I
mouth shut.
still
I
miss
keep
her.
my mouth shut.
One day at school I said to her, do you want to walk home together today?
I keep my mouth
I
shut.
said, we can walk home and then go to yours and make macaroni cheese.
I keep my mouth
I
shut.
said, we can just hang out.
I keep my mouth shut.
And she didn't say anything. I took a big breath and I asked her what I've been wanting to ask her for weeks.
I keep my mouth shut.
Grace, do you like me anymore?
I keep my mouth shut.
She didn't say anything.
I keep my mouth shut. I'm at home. I'm standing in the kitchen, getting a drink of water. The it is resting. It occasionally rolls over and stretches along my abdomen. My mum has come in and puts on the radio.
The latest victim of knife crime has been named as 17-year-old David Sanderson.
The it moves up over my shoulder and squeezes into my arm.
On Thursday, April 21st, the victim is thought to have run into a local shop for help.
I turn up the radio. A local mother comes on.
We're scared for our children.
There's a sharp pain in my hand.
We're scared when our children go to school.
There's a tiny cut in my hand.
We're scared when our children are out of sight.
There's blood in the palm of my hand.
We need someone to do something.
There's something sticking out of the palm of my hand.
He was just 17, just a kid.
It looks like a thorn from a rose, but it's bright blue.
That poor boy lying in his own blood.
It's a claw.
Why is no one doing anything?
There's a claw sticking out of the palm of my hand.
Why does no one care?
I tried to push back the claw. I tried to push the claw back in with my fingertip.
That boy terrified, screaming, knowing he's going to die.
It won't go back in.
Screaming for his mom.
I go to the bathroom. I close the bathroom door. I take my shoe off.
The 15-year-old boy to be killed around here.
I hit the palm of my hand with my shoe like a hammer.
And no one in charge seems to give a toss.
The claw resists.
That poor boy.
The claw resists.
That poor boy.
I wrap gaffer tape around my hand.
Remember those revision
Yeah, Mr. Logan. Idiot.
Remember that test?
Yeah, easy.
When I was sitting next to Reese Fremantle.
Yeah, free mental. Joke.
I don't think you should joke about it.
Yeah, alright.
I wouldn't like that if that happened to me and everyone.
God, alright, okay.
Anyway, we were looking at that famous photo of a little boy in Syria who was bombed. When Grace saw it, she started to shake.
Pain inside is...
A 4-year-old boy sits on an orange chair. The chair is too big for him.
Aleppo has been bombed.
The little boy is dusty from those buildings.
His hair is matted and chalky.
One side of his face is covered in blood.
The little boy sits silently with his hands on his knees.
The pain inside me is unbearable.
Her whole body was shaking. The desk was moving. I asked her if she was alright, but she didn't say anything. I wanted to tell Mr. Logan, but Grace looked at me in a way that made me feel like I shouldn't. I should have told Mr. Logan. Maybe if I told Mr. Logan, then playing in PE never would have happened.
Yeah.
Do you think so?
Oh. Yeah. No. I don't know.
I can't stop watching the news. I can't stop reading the news. I can't stop listening to the news. I don't want to. I shut my eyes, cover my ears. I don't want to know.
Food banks, cyclones, arms dealing, famine, murder, benefit cuts, luxury yachts, suicide, extinction.
The it crawls up inside me. Its spiky head reaches my throat. It wriggles up. Its beak is stuck in the back of my throat. Its beak opens up like a baby bird wanting to be fed. It speaks. The it speaks. The it speaks and says,
What is next?
Disaster
after disaster after disaster.
I gulp it back down my throat, back into my body, pulsing and vibrating back in the pit of my stomach. I put tape over my mouth.
Grace man, Grace.
Yeah, Grace man.
With the and the Bala Club. Right, yeah. Grace one day comes into school wearing this Bala Club. And it wasn't winter or nothing.
Yeah, no, it was spring.
They all take piss. I don't give a...
She got away with it. They put me in isolation when Mama trained us 2 days in a row to school. And I had a real reason. My school shoes were getting fixed.
In it.
At break time, I go to the toilet. I take my clothes off. I watch the it move around inside my body, bumping and poking and pushing at my skin. It's grown so big. Long growl rumbles through my blood, muscle and gristle. What is next?
And she's allowed to walk around willy-nilly wearing her happy as a Larry in her balaclava.
What is next? I fall asleep in my bedroom.
There are people in a camp in Calais. There are people in a camp in Kos. There are people in a camp in Bangladesh.
My dreams are infiltrated.
They've run away from their own countries. They've run away from hunger and war and terror.
My dreams are infiltrated.
The people used to live in peace with grandparents and friends and neighbours.
I wake up.
They used to sip tea and break bread with smiles and love. They used to bicker about parking spaces and the music that next door played at 3 a.m.
I have a terrible pain just below my belly button.
They used to sing the old songs and dance to the new songs and laugh about silly things like the way Grandma used pomegranates.
There's a trickle of blood.
The children used to go to school at 1, 2, 3. Then guns and bombs and helicopters arrived.
There's a rip in my stomach.
The women and men gathered up their children started to run. They covered mass the possession of their backs.
I peel back the skin.
The women and children and men are not wanted in the camps of Calais and Bangladesh and Kos.
There is an eye.
They dream of home.
A yellow eye.
They dream of Grandma eating her breakfast in the pink light in the morning. They dream of banging on the wall at 3 a.m. shouting at the neighbours to turn his music down.
A bright yellow eye.
There are women and children and men in a different type of camp in the south of France.
A bright yellow eye with a thin black pupil.
They wake up in the morning and have croissants and jam and coffee. They stretch their legs and yawn to the glimmering sun.
The it blinks up at me.
Think about the day ahead, which will be full of sandcastles and giggles.
We look up at each other.
And
Swimming and sun cream and cool bubbly drinks.
I think I know what it was.
hear about some of the ways that we have made this show and how you found about it and how you feel about the script and how you'd like it to progress over the next couple of weeks. And then I'd love, just as we did this morning, some questions from the audience to talk about this show, what we liked about it, what we think about the play, obviously a very different play to Windrush Generations. And then to talk about how is it going to develop, how we're going to keep this piece moving forward. So can someone tell me about how did this process start when you first got the play? Hello.
Well, we got the scripts in November, and then the second or third, I can't even remember, lockdown happened, and a lot of people, like, we tried to do Google Meets, but they didn't really work, as I'm sure you all know that it's practically impossible to,
Pretty hard.
yeah, to do a production on Zoom. So we just did a couple scenes, like we got our characters, and then in just after the Easter holidays, we got back in school, so we were actually allowed to like do in-person rehearsals, and then but those were only like once a week, not like we didn't have any full day ones until literally 2 days ago. So we basically had nothing until Wednesday. So it's very rough.
Amazing. But think what you're having in a couple of weeks. Oh, exam shams. I mean, it's very easy for me to say that. Talk to me about the play. What is the play about? What were our first thoughts when we read it?
So I really like this play because I like how it relates to this girl feeling a bit hopeless and she's watching the news and seeing all these things in the news and feels like she can't do anything. It's kind of a metaphor of feeling like this, all this hatred and anger growing inside her. And so we really wanted to represent that through the paper and just having like a more visual representation of what was growing.
Yeah, I love the way that I see you take your revision notes and that they start to kind of take over your whole body. I definitely remember that anxiety. Any other thoughts on the play?
It's a really good illustration of how mental health, it affects every teenager, but it's quite subtle. But in this case, like it's quite big and like as a literal monster. But it's like it's affecting all of us, and we just need to be wary of everyone and understand that everyone's going through something, though it might not be visible.
Yeah, and also kind of it's not really talked about how how the news impacts young people. That's not really a thing people talk about. How like people do feel quite overwhelmed with when people talk about like shootings and attacks on TV. It's honestly so much more serious about how it affects young children for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
So this show, like this play, really represents that.
I'll go 1, 2, 3.
And it also shows like if you don't, because Grace, she never like told anyone, and she kept it within her, so it shows that it's important to share it with the people you care, or whatever, or like it will just get worse.
Great, thanks.
I think the issue is that because we've only done half the play, so like, because really where she kind of explodes it out is after the back of the play. So I don't think we really express like Grace as a person fully until we do the rest of it.
Well, that leads me on to my next question, which is, so how is it going to develop when we have the whole piece together? What are the things that you want to try to work on?
So the things we're trying to work on is just kind of smooth those. We need to get the rest of the play along and just kind of know what we're doing a bit more.
We need to learn our lines.
Yeah.
It's always helpful.
Yeah.
I'd love to have some questions from the audience or thoughts about what we liked about this work in progress performance. Hello there.
I really like the way that like keeping them on involved with like, or keeping them on and know other people kind of into gaming. That was really good.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting thing to talk about, which is the way that the chorus is interspersed throughout all of the dialogue and how that breaks it up. How have you found rehearsing that?
It's tiring
Yeah.
because you're always on stage. You can't just switch out.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sure that some of you would have seen like we maybe move it a little bit like at the back, and it's
to like just watch it behind and like be fiddling,
Yeah.
and it's yeah.
You have to build that kind of rigor and control, don't you? Go on.
Also, in some scenes, like the pizza scene, that we're just kind of, we have to do the interacting between one another, and then suddenly we just cut and do our line, and then just go back.
Yeah.
And just like, we sometimes, I'm pretty sure some of us, we forget to do the line, and we're just like, oh my god.
Yeah. It's just about running and running and running now until so you don't even think about it anymore. Because actually, as a play, it's very complicated. It runs in multiple different time frames, often at the same time. So there's lots of direct address where we talk to the audience in a kind of documentary style, like where you're sat at the moment, and they tell us a bit like we're on TV. Oh yeah, I do great. And then we cut back into the action, and then we cut back forwards and back and back and back, which is really hard, which is why it's so exhausting, right? Go on.
What does it want?
What does
You'll
it
find
want?
that out.
After having seen it work in progress, what do you think that it might want? No idea.
It wants anything. It's more of like, it's not an actual creature that wants anything. It kind of just lives inside Grace and
It's like a
takes away.
parasite. Yeah, it's really that it is.
It's Grace's rage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
less.
her frustration about the world, basically.
I would say it's less of a monster and more of a parasite. It grows inside of her. And I think that it wants to leave, right? Because like in the final scene, basically she's in PE and she like starts screaming and everyone's like, what's going on? And to her, the monster is literally coming out of her. And it's like this sort of massive dragon type thing. Like it's really weird to read. Just like, yeah, it's a very odd thing.
And do we have ideas about how we're going to stage this massive
That's where the paper came in. We thought we were gonna like build up until we've got like this big puppet thing. So we thought we could just kind of represent it with the paper for now and then build it up.
This is our early it.
This is
It's pretty green, but
this is the early, isn't it?
like
everyone has
got
got
wings.
So is the plan that you're building it up enough from the kind of the revision and the notes and making that bigger and bigger?
It was also like a hard decision because we can't have an actual dragon coming out of our mouth. And we didn't want to make it too literal, but then again, we wanted to kind of not make it too illiteral as well. So kind of find imaginary. Yeah. Sorry. So kind of find that balance between like having something coming out of her, but not being generic and having like something really boring.
Just throws up paper.
Elsa, how do you find playing Grace?
It's good. It's yeah. It's there's bits which like me and Gabby see which is Sam and Grace, which I like because it's quite like out of all the chaos. It's quite like it's like a break from all that stuff. And it's like quite calm and nice, and then you just get back to the chaos. Yeah, but I like it.
It's a really hard character. I think I've seen probably 4 or 5 versions of this show. Because actually, what you do really well, I think, is this sense of the sadness and the ennui that she has. You know, that scene where you're talking to a friend and you can't open your mouth. It's so heartbreaking. And actually having that control juxtaposed against this massive dragon that is about to come in like 20 minutes' time is really hard, getting that character balance. She's like the calm of the storm, which is happening around her, which she feels, but she doesn't quite know how to articulate. Hello?
I was wondering what year group you're in.
Year 11.
Yeah, just on just
Yeah, 11F.
You're in
11F.
Year 9.
Yeah.
What?
How come?
I was just wondering.
But there must be a reason.
Grace
Wait,
is in
us
we
or
are in
them?
year 9, but
Us?
Grace is in year 11.
No, you was like
Us.
no, yeah.
Yeah.
We are in year 9.
Yeah.
Good. Questions from above? Hello?
Hello. I don't have a question. I just wanted to say you are all brilliant, and I really enjoyed that. And what I think worked particularly well was all of the like beautiful ensemble movements. So when you kind of you had a bird leading, and then you had everyone moving around, and you all seem like you've been working together as a company for a while, not since Easter. So that was really nice. I'd love to see even more of that movement, actually.
Thank you.
It also isn't a question, but I just really liked the characters that they each played, because the characters are also like pretty like funny too, and they're like really well thought out, and like you guys played the characters very good.
Who were your favourite characters?
I can't remember. I liked Grace's friend, and I also liked like the people, the person at the pizza shop.
Nice.
Yes.
Who else had a question like that? Hello.
I was wondering how you kept it still because I cannot keep still.
It was incredibly difficult. It was so well, and you're just like, stay still, stay still, stay still.
Are the tips that you found into getting into the skill? Because it is hard.
I just try and like think about nothing. Just like,
I just look at what just stare at it.
That's it. It's about focus and breathing. But it's also a thing that you practice like anything, just keeping that kind of level of concentration. Hello.
Hello. I was going to ask this before I knew the ending. So obviously, I'm guessing Grace explodes, or at least the dragon comes out. Do you think if you were writing this script yourself, you could write it in a different way where she didn't explode, and that she almost went into reverse, and that actually good came out of the world, and slowly this creature kind of shrank back inside her?
I honestly feel like after reading the play, the ending was a bit upsetting. Like, her screaming isn't as big of a thing as we thought it would be. And we thought she'd like, I don't know, like harm herself in some way, or like I genuinely thought that she was gonna like do something harmful to herself, but all she does is scream in a field, and that was kind of.
It's a bit anticlimactic because, like, although screaming in the field in like the middle of PE is a strange, slightly dramatic thing to do, there's all this build up to like all these really serious things, and it seems like when you really think about it, like all these people on the interviews, they're talking about it like it's some life-changing event. I'm like, she screamed on the PE field? No, like what actually I think happens to her is a bit like, maybe not trivialized, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like, the way that it ends, it doesn't feel like it really wraps up everything. It sort of is just...
What's really good about that conversation, I think, is that you've clearly got ideas about what it should feel like. Which I would say is, that's a director's mindset. So my job lots of the time is, you get to a scene in a play, I do a lot of new writing, so you'll get to a scene in a play and you'll think, this doesn't do what I'd like it to do. And then your job is to go, okay, well, how do I do it? So it sounds from your description that she has to really go for it. Like your description of what happens is, you know, just screaming in a PE field is not crazy enough. So how do you make it crazy? And the thing you can do is, you can't change the text, not really, but you can change everything else. So any bits that don't say what happens, you can make a run around. You can make a dig up the dirt from the ground in the PE field and rub it in her eye while screaming. And if someone did that at school, you think, oh, well, that is worth getting on the news. Or you could really go for it in a way that I haven't even thought of. Because you've got a vision like what that looks like. So now you've got to figure it out. Gabriel.
I think if I was to write the ending in a different way, I'd probably do it. Maybe you should talk to someone and just kind of diffuse the situation, because it's the kind of idea that it's building up. She's stopping herself from talking about it. She doesn't want to let it out. So if she talks to someone about it, kind of releasing the energy in a more positive way.
Yeah, hello.
I kind of like that it ends with her being all kind of screaming. I think it could be a little bit more dramatic, but I feel like it's kind of a good illustration of what happens when you don't talk about your issues, because I feel like we don't do that enough as a society, and that this could happen. I mean, it couldn't, obviously, but like this is a result of, you know, not being open, and a problem shared is a problem halved, which I think is really, really important.
Also, we're doing the abridged version,
Yeah.
and I remember in the full version, she gets like picked up by her parents, but I can't specifically remember whether she actually talks to anyone about it. But she does like, someone like a professional does end up talking to her, I think.
Yeah.
And there's a friend of hers that feels the same in the end.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
And like she goes out and she takes it.
Okay, I'm going to take two more questions. 1, 2.
It's not so much a question. I think
you guys have already alluded to the idea that you're going to have this sort of paper creature that appears, and your ensemble work is absolutely brilliant. And for a couple of weeks rehearsal, it's amazing how together you are as a unit. But I think there's loads of potential in that idea that this thing is still magical, still and monster-like within the ensemble. And maybe because all of you seem to have such an affinity with this story, maybe it's you're all kind of a part of Grace, and something happens with that in the ensemble that makes it a bigger event somehow visually.
Yeah, and also the reaction from the chorus that we started putting in over the last couple of hours is that thing that would really make that feel awful and memorable, that will stay with you forever. Is it Emily?
Yeah. So after Grace explodes with all her feelings, what do you think happens? Like, does she become happier? Or
Do you mean after the play even?
or like after she screams in the future?
I personally think that it's just this sort of, all that energy that was in her, it leaves and she just becomes exhausted. Like it's kind of, you know, if something really traumatic has happened to you in your life, you don't feel sad really, you just feel like numb and kind of just really honestly exhausted. So that's why she's, in the longer version, she's off school. I'm pretty sure she's off school for a while.
And she hadn't talked to, like, she literally stops talking to anybody. Like, she doesn't, like, it's not like she just stops talking to Sam or she stops, like, you know, being as active. She genuinely stops talking. She puts tape over her mouth and, yeah, do you remember? Puts tape over her mouth and stops talking. And that's not something that just goes away after you have your big moment.
Yeah, so I think that she is going to get a lot more, like she's going to be off school for ages, but then she's going to come back and be a better version of herself.
I did think that that's something that I disagree.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one final question, which is, what do you think has been the most exciting thing about bringing this play to life? Go for it.
Working together with people that you might not usually work with necessarily in different classes. Yeah. It was nice to see other people that you wouldn't get. Some people just join the theatre and so it was nice to really get to know them.
Amazing. I think with such a limited amount of rehearsal time, you've done an amazing job, and I can't wait to see what we do with it in a couple of weeks' time. Can we give them another round of applause?